Hello everyone and welcome along to another episode of BVI Pilots, the first sort of proper edition that we're doing, with last week's being a bit of an intro. We got a guest on the podcast today for an interview, which we'll talk about in a second. Obviously, I'm sure you all know who I am, Declan, and we're here with Johnny as well.
Hello everyone, hope everybody's doing alright today.
So we got a lot to get through on today's episode. We got a few things to catch up on over the past few weeks that have happened before we started the podcast. But firstly, we're going to have an interview, and we're going to go back, I think it was to about this time last year, perhaps, when an add-on that I'm sure you've all heard of, and I recommend you all get if you enjoy flight sim, Talking Flight Monitor, and we're gonna have a bit of a discussion on that with Jason himself. Hey, Jason.
Highly recommended.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Good to be here.
All right, so
yeah, it's good to have you on the show, man.
Yeah, it's really great. You know, first interview. I couldn't think of a better way to get our interview segment started off.
And I'm sure he probably gets a lot of, people probably ask him questions all the time. It's like when they see him out, they're like all like running to catch up. Oh, we got to catch up with him. We got to ask him this or ask him that. So I'm sure he's probably used to the.
Yeah.
Luckily, the community is still relatively small, so it hasn't hasn't been a huge issue yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Because what he does is, what you do is pretty amazing, man.
Yeah.
It's a dedication that obviously you didn't have to be, you didn't have to be dedicated to, but you are.
And
it's
you must do more coding than flying when it comes down to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate it, man.
Oh,
absolutely. It's gonna a really, really good way to kickstart the podcast. So the first question that we have, and feel free to go, off script as we go along.
Sure.
But for new pilots, for people who are getting into this or have never heard of TFM, how would you describe it to them?
So TFM, or Talking Flight Monitor, is a piece of software that I wrote starting, actually, it was May of last year. So this was Talking Flight Monitor is essentially reads out a lot of information about the aircraft. It started off when I first did it. It started as a request from somebody that said, "Can we get nearby city information to the aircraft?" And I started looking at it, and I looked at another project that was doing some things with Flight Simulator in Python, which is a language that I knew a little bit of. And so I'm like, I wonder what I can do with this. So I was able to add that feature to just read the nearest city to your aircraft, and it just kind of snowballed since then. So now it reads well over 100 settings out of the simulator, and so it'll read like various toggles, like your battery master switches and your avionics master and autopilot controls and all that sort of stuff. It reads when your flaps change. It reads your landing gear. Obviously, I'm not going to go through all the settings. There's a ton of them, but and it also lets you do things like control the autopilot in the aircraft. So you can type in heading, altitude, and speed into the TFM window, and you can control your autopilot that way. And so it's sort of just kind of a toolbox of features to make Flight Simulator more accessible, is sort of what I describe it as. And so, we've got features like the attitude indication, which you get audible. I guess the word is sonification, or audible indications of your aircraft pitch and bank. And we've actually had a few people be able to fly various aircraft manually using that, which is pretty cool. So not using autopilot.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember when it came out, I was so excited to be able to actually see where we were flying over. That was, and it's just gone on massively from there. I mean, the next question you kind of answered, what motivated you to write TFMs, what I got down here. I mean, it sounds kind of like it was these things coming together that you you had a bit of knowledge of the coding side, and it seems it's also been very community driven.
Absolutely. So I mean, I've always dabbled in coding. Even back when I was sort of a a little kid and teenager. I mean, I started off on an Apple II doing BASIC, way back when.
Yeah.
So I'm dating myself a little bit, but yeah. So, the people always say the best way to learn to code is to do it, and the best way to do it is to find something that you want to actually write. And so, when this came up, I was like, this sounds like kind of a fun thing. And like I said, it's really kind of snowballed. I was going back looking through the code, recently, just to sort of get an inventory of all the features, because I've added so much that occasionally I'll sort of forget. Oh yeah, it does that.
Go through the settings dialog. Oh, what's that one do?
Yeah. I know what it does when I read it, but I'm like, oh yeah, holy crap,
Yeah.
this does a lot of stuff. But I so it's really, and it's been massively community driven. I mean, people will send me messages on a chat and say, hey, do you think TFM could do this? I'm like, I don't know. Let me see. And a lot of it is driven by what data I can get out of what's called FSU IPC, which is the sort of interface layer that goes between external programs, or lots of different external programs, and the flight simulator. So a lot of what I'm doing is just reading data out of FSU IPC, and there's like several hundred different data points you can get out of there, and then just presenting it to people in various ways. So whether that be audio tones for the pitch and bank, or if it's just your screen reader reading out your altitude or that sort of thing. So there's just been a lot of various things I've been able to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's open source. Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's open source, which has been kind of fun too, because we've had one or two members of the community that actually have looked at the source and either fixed something for me, like if there's a bug, they'll fix it, or add little things in to correct things. So it's been a fun sort of collaborative project.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, because I'm looking at
ways too.
Yeah.
It
really has.
Sorry, I missed that.
I said it's came a long ways. Like when you first put it out there and people was using it, and it was great then. But it's like, like you said, someone will want a feature and you'll look at it and you can add it, or you'll be like, well, let me look at it some more. But I think it gives us, it opens up new windows for all of us as simmers, because obviously without it, I think things would be much more complicated.
Oh yeah, it's one of those add-ons that just boots straight with the sim for me now. There's no question about it. It's just sim TFM, goes in the flow. There's never a time I don't fly without it, and it's
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
And I mean, people certainly, people certainly did simming before TFM was around, but I think it just adds another level of sort of realism and immersion, to the whole simming experience, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just been, you find little things as you fly, like it can be a small thing, on VATSIM you realize that actually the plane's not on the center line, just little things, and you go, yeah, that's something I never thought about before. Didn't even think that could be happening. I wonder how we could, get around this. How could we add something that could fix it? And then it goes from there. I think,
like, one of the other features that I think you recently added, and correct me if I'm wrong, it might be something that's been there for a while, and that's being able to see if there's other planes around you.
Oh yeah. So that's actually that's the most recent thing that I added. So what that does is looks at the your local traffic, whether that be online traffic from something like VATSIM or AI traffic. So there's keys that you can hit to read your nearest ground traffic or your nearest airborne traffic. So and you get slightly different information if you're online or offline, just because the information I can get out of the sim is different for online or offline.
What is it? Just right bracket P? Isn't that how you do the traffic? Just
it's right.
P?
So TFM uses a layered command approach. So anybody who's used JAWS, for example, JAWS does this with like its insert spacebar command. You'll do insert spacebar and then another key sequence. So because there's so many keys already defined in the sim, there's a million of them. I didn't want to try to find keys that weren't being used, and or have you need to remap a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
So what I did is I used the left and right square bracket keys, which most programs don't use. So if you hit right square bracket, you get a little bleep noise, and then you hit any number of other commands after that to perform a TFM function.
Yeah, which is a really smart idea, and it doesn't slow it down at all. And you get to know these commands. I mean, and thinking about the left bracket, because of course that is opening up a whole new world of function for our A2A aircraft. And I imagine that's been a bit of a journey in itself, getting with A2A and getting some help, but also, making these aircraft more accessible. That's been a really crazy part of TFM. I never thought that would happen.
That's been a fun one, and I feel a bit bad for anybody who doesn't use A2A, because I spent quite a bit of time on the A2A stuff, and I was hoping people didn't feel like I was leaving them behind.
It made me really want to try it, to be honest, because I was never a big GA fan, but when you saw what it could do, you thought, this is a new level of realism.
Oh man, it's amazing! It is amazing.
Yeah. So just for anybody who doesn't know, the A2A is a company. A2A Simulations make a whole range of aircraft. They're all GA, general aviation aircraft, and some military, like some old military. But they also make a lot of information available to external sources, and they're quite open with it. So, for example, if you have any of the A2A aircraft, you can go into the directory on your computer, and you can look at all the code for the gauges. It's all written in XML. So, you have to understand XML, but you can actually go in there and say, okay, when I click this button, the complete overhaul button in the maintenance hangar, let's say, what does it actually do? And you can see all the stuff that it's doing behind the scenes. So through TFM and through some other features of FSU IPC, I was able to sort of duplicate some of that functionality. So, for example, on the A2A Bonanza, it has tip tanks on the wings, or you can install them or uninstall them. And what you had to do normally is you had to bring up the maintenance hangar, and then you had to move around with the mouse and try to find the control that had the tooltip on it for for the tip tanks. And
pretty time consuming.
In no way efficient. So I figure, well, if I can look at what that control does, can I bind a key to it? And turns out it could. So, and the guys at A2A have been actually really quite good. Like there's been a few times I've been looking at the code for a gauge or for a button, and I'll email them and I say, I can't really figure out what this does. Can somebody give me an idea what's going on here? And so I was able to add that. So the A2A stuff, I can read several different engine instruments. I can read oil quantities, fuel quantities, and there's even a dialogue in TFM. It's a bit of a work in progress. The A2A stuff, if you look at the documentation, I flag it as experimental because it still kind of is. But yeah, so it's been a lot of fun to work on that.
I know. I've been doing the plane, the prop planes and stuff, and having that ability, like being able to prime it, and just all the different options that you've opened up for that, just been really amazing, man. Like when I realized all you could do. But I think that if someone was going to get into them kind of planes, can you explain to them what about the what's the FSUI? I can't think of what it's called, but they got to have it. It's got to be registered, and they got to have the latest. Can you go into that a little bit? And I think you'll explain it better than I will.
Sure. I don't want to get super. I don't want to get super technical, but
right.
So FSU IPC, like I said, is kind of this interface layer that sits on top of the sim and lets other programs interface into the interface with it. There's another thing called SimConnect, which is a lot more complicated to use, so that's why I don't use it. And it actually doesn't give you as much information. So with the A2A aircraft, well, sorry, let me back up. There's two. So FSU IPC, you can download it for free. And most things in TFM will work with the free version of FSU IPC. Because of the way that I have to interface with the A2A aircraft right now, and this could change, but as of right now,
as of this date,
the way that I have, the way that I have to interface with the aircraft requires that you install some script files into FSU IPC, and in order for those script files to work, it's one of the things that you have to have a paid version of FSU IPC to use. So right now, the A2A stuff is the only thing that requires a registered version. Everything else with all any other aircraft will work. But if you want to use the A2A stuff, you do have to have a version of FSU IPC that's registered, and I believe it's like €35 or something like that. I haven't.
Yeah, I don't think it's too bad in price. It's not too awful bad.
No, so if you're running Flight Simulator X or FSX, you want to use FSU IPC version 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're running Prepared, it's version FSU IPC version 6. If you have version 5 will work, but 6 is where any new features are going into. So, and actually, if you own 5, I don't know if they're still doing it, but they were giving you like it only cost like $10 or something to upgrade to 6, so it was pretty cheap.
Nice. Okay. So it's really not a lot, the FSU IPC for what you get, and we all know A2A. If anyone listening has tried them, they're great sounds, great quality. You get the full realism, and so with TFM as well. That just and I think it really opened up a new area, because it was always this kind of thing. Oh, third-party aircraft payware, they're not going to work for us. And then as soon as this came along, we kind of got, yes, they're general aviation, but they are still third-party, high-quality aircraft, and we can actually fly them with quite a bit of realism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I got started into it, like, I don't know, it's not been super long ago, maybe a month ago or something like that. I bet for that first 3 days, man, I flew everywhere in Cherokee. Like, I flew that thing all over the place. It's just, it's the quality of the sounds and the ability to, I kind of like the ability to be able to just fly wherever I want to go, and not really, sometimes it's fun just kind of picking, I'm going to go, I'm going to go, heading of 50, or I'm going to go, or I'm going to go south or whatever, it's fun. And
that's the thing, TFM is good for VFR and IFR flying. It's very versatile.
And at the end of the day, man, it comes down to, TFM is really it makes things so much better. I can't imagine doing it without it.
Yeah, right.
Well,
I guess people did, maybe they sim,
for sure.
but I don't know how they got their information.
I started. Well, they just didn't. Or I started simming. Yes. Well, actually, I started simming back in the FS Navigator days, which if anybody's been doing this for a long time.
So it's been a minute. Yeah.
Let's see. I'm trying to think because I was still living in the U.S. at the time, so that would have been 2007 or 8.
Yeah.
Something like
that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was maybe before that, probably, actually. And you could get some information, and then we had, It's Your Plane, which a lot of people used, that gave you a fair bit of information. There's been options.
Right.
But it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and the TFM is like an assistant kind of thing. It's not going to fly the plane for you, but it's like you said, a little toolbox. There's so many different things to it that you couldn't just say it's for one purpose. It's got so many little things.
Yeah, and there's I mean there's some things that I'm probably not going to do. Like I'm not going to make a flight planner because there's other programs that do that. There's no need for me to do that.
Right.
What I'm trying to do is fill any gaps that the existing tools don't give you to the extent that I can.
Absolutely. I mean, that takes us really well on to the next point that I got here, which was what are your plans for the future for TFM? What are your ideas for new features or changes that you want to happen over the next, say, year or so, especially with, I guess, FS 2020 and all this new stuff?
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as FS 2020 goes, sorry, I'll try that again. As far as FS 2020 goes, who the heck knows?
It's just a waiting game.
Yeah, we have no idea what accessibility features are happening in there. I did reach out to a member of the Microsoft accessibility team and was essentially told, we'll try to get some information, but we don't have anything yet. That was like in the last week or so. So there might be accessibility features in there. We have no idea. So the only way I'm going to know what's happening with FS 2020 is when I actually see it. And we see what the what it does or doesn't do. Is it compatible with the different add-ons? Does FSU IPC work with it? Which I hear it should, but I don't know anything. We don't know anything yet. So that's coming up in August. So we'll see. The challenge right now is that I'm doing everything on a laptop and I don't have the space to install FS 2020 because I'm hearing it's massive, like 200 or 300 gigs massive. So, before I can do that, I might need to buy a new machine. So we'll see. But other than that, TFM is actually going through a fairly major, I don't know if you call it an upgrade or cross grade or what you want to call it. But when I initially, as I said earlier, when I initially wrote TFM, I wrote it in Python. And I'm starting to run into things that either aren't working as well in Python because of the way Python hooks into FSU IPC, or just things just aren't working quite right, or I'm running into things that I can't do as easily. So a couple months ago, I decided that because I wanted to learn C# anyway, I decided that I would port Python to C#.NET. So that's sort of the next big thing. And what I've said on some of the chat channels and stuff is that I don't plan on adding anything new right now to the Python version of TFM. I'll fix major bugs if they come up, but if it's like really minor things, like somebody reported the other day that there's a very intermittent crash that isn't very easily reproducible. And what I said, right now, I'm probably not going to touch that because I'm converting everything over. I don't want to do a ton of work twice.
Absolutely, makes sense.
Yeah, so the conversion to C# is well underway. I'm kind of doing. That's why I said I was looking at the sort of the feature list the other day and going, wow, this thing does a lot. The other day, because I'm sort of converting things over in pieces. So right now, for example, I've got all the instruments that are toggles, like just on off, reading. And there's a surprising number of those. There's probably 20 or 30 of those. So those are all reading. I'm now working on all the whole keyboard interface, hooking in all the hotkeys, which is going to take me a while. Then after that, I'll probably do the flight following stuff, which is the nearest city. And then the hardest part, I think, is going to be the audible stuff. So the attitude indication, those sorts of things, I think are going to be the hardest piece to do. I know I can do them, but as with TFM and Python, I'm learning as I go here, which is really kind of fun because it gives me a project to work on.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what's happening as far as the conversion. I can't give any kind of time frame yet. I think I am going to call it, TFM. I'll probably call it 2.0 when that comes out. But I can't give any time frame. My hope is, a few months, 2-3 months. But things happen, and real life gets in the way, and all that sort of stuff. So I can't. I'm not going to give any dates, because then somebody will hold me to it. But
yeah, exactly.
The other, I want to do more with the A2A stuff. I want to interface, some of the other aircraft. I want to see if I can do the what's that big one? Oh, the Constellation. I want to see if I can do the Constellation. I want to add.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I want to add the Comanche, which that one will actually be easy. But the bigger piece that I'd like to do, if I can do it, is the PMDG aircraft. So the 737, 747s have some pretty amazing interfaces into FSUIPC. So, for example, one of the things that you can do with FSUIPC is read the entire FMC panel. So you can actually read the text out of the FMC, and enter text in the FMC. So my sort of longer term plan, I would say probably after I get the conversion done, is I want to see what I can do with these, because I think I might be able to do some pretty cool things with them. I just have to understand a lot more about the interface, but I do know for a fact that I can read the FMC or CDU.
So the FMC is definitely readable.
It is. I haven't done it yet, but I know it is. Like I've read the documentation and I know it is. I just have to.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
that alone, Jason, is going to, when you get to that point, which I know it's still a little bit out, but that is going to make such a difference in some of the things that we do as simmers and being able to do different things, because it's an important part. So that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be absolutely amazing.
Because of course we've never accessed an FMC. We've never seen one in all these years of flying. We've always had to use external software and never been able to enter anything straight into the plane. So if it was possible, of course, it would be great.
And so you're saying it would be on the upgraded version of TFM, right?
I'm not gonna do it on the Python version.
Right.
I just like I said, it's going to be a huge amount of work, and I really don't want to do it twice.
When you get to that point, Jason, that let's say that you've got it done, and you've got 2.0 out, how hard would it be for someone like me or Declan that use this version to upgrade? Is it something as far as just installing a different program? Is it?
Good question. So my plan is right now, and things change, but my plan right now, and the way I've got things working right now, is your existing tfm.ini file, which for anybody who hasn't used it, is the configuration file that TFM uses for all your settings. I'm writing the new software to take advantage of that same file, so you won't need to redo your configuration. Not that there's a ton of configuration in there, but
right.
You'll be able to use that same file to a point. I did need to change the way that hotkeys are mapped in that file. So the way that hotkeys are written in the tfm.ini file are going to be a little different, and you're probably going to want to actually use the UI or the user interface to change them, because they're not as intuitive if you just look at the ini file now. But I had to do that because it made it easier to code it and tie it into everything. So, but as far as the install, it's just going to be it'll be an installer the same way it is now, and you'll just install it and you'll get a talking flight monitor. It'll be pretty much the same. So I don't think you'll notice a lot of difference. You won't install it over top of your existing one. What I would say is you'd want to uninstall your current one and then install the install the new one.
And would the new one do everything that the old one does now with
Yes, that's the idea. Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay. Okay.
So I may release some early sort of alpha beta versions that maybe don't have all the functionality in it yet, just to kind of let people okay, I've just added all the toggles, and I've just added the GPWS ground proximity warning system announcements. Can somebody run this and tell me if it's working like you want it to?
Right.
So and that's actually not far off. I'm hoping to do that, at least get the first sort of test release out in the next few weeks. That'll have sort of some of the basic functionality. Like it probably won't have the the attitude mode, and it may not have all the flight following stuff, but it'll have the reading of instruments and most of the hotkeys. Is my plan.
Yeah, and that's what's driven TFM forward, all the betas in the community then.
And I'm thinking, we've always been talking about, being able to, do a code startup, go through and do a checklist and all that. And so, when you were talking about it, being able to turn on and off all these different switches, essentially that's what you're doing when you're doing a checklist. You're going through and you're flipping these switches, turning them on, turning them off. So, do you think that would be something that might be in the future as far as being able to do a checklist rundown? Or
it's not a bad idea, and somebody did mention that once before, or a few times before, and the challenge with that is. There's different checklists. Like most aircraft have different checklists, right? So I don't necessarily want to write a checklist system for every single aircraft, because that would be
that'd be a lot. Yeah.
But like, for example, what I've done for the A2A aircraft is in your TFM folder. There's a folder called checklists, and what I did is because in the A2A aircraft there's a notes panel that you can pull up that has sort of notes and checklists about how to start things up and all that, and all of that stuff was available in the XML file. So I just pulled out all the information that was in those XML files and stuck them in text files. So you can go into the checklist folder and you can look at the checklist for the Bonanza or the Cherokee or the C-182 or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's not interactive. I mean, you can't it doesn't read back an item and then you do it and then it checks to see if you've done it.
You just read down it and
which
check them yourself.
Yeah, which doesn't mean I couldn't do it. I probably could actually. But we'd have to figure out. Like I said, I'm not going to do every aircraft, so I think we'd have to figure out what aircraft.
That'd be a lot.
Maybe. Especially
so maybe. Yes, exactly. So maybe have a. Yeah, I think the checklists for the jets are fairly generic, except when you start dealing with things like the PMDG or things like that. Those have quite a bit more advanced checklists. But I think we could do something for the built-in jets, or maybe some.
It could even be something the community do. Make their own if they're really familiar with an aircraft, make their own checklist. If we could come up with a structure, I guess we'd have to see. But
yeah, I mean, because the idea would be, what I'd like to do is have the checklist say, okay, battery master on, and then as soon as you flip the battery master on, it says, okay, you turned it on. So now I'm going to move on to the next item.
If it could
so
pick
that requires, that requires some sort of underpinning to actually monitor the switches, and custom checklists might make that a little hard. But I'll give it. I'm certainly going to give it a think. I think again that'll probably be after the sort of the base conversion stuff.
Yeah.
I want to get everything moved over first and get everything, working as it was, which I think right now TFM is working. As far as stability, it's working pretty darn well. I think there's a few little glitches, but I think right now I'm pretty happy with the stability of it. So I think
it's pretty fine.
So once I get everything moved over, then I can start adding things onto it.
So, for new pilots, the documentation at TFM is pretty substantial, and it's pretty got all the info you're going to need to get yourself set up at least and have a bit of a test run, and you'll learn as you go. In terms of contacting you, Jason, what are the best places for the community to get in contact with ideas or questions if they're new, say?
So if people want to get a hold of me, most of my email addresses are pretty much the same. So I'm jfayre, JFAYRE @gmail.com. I'm at jfayre, JFAYRE on Twitter. There's also TFM, where TFM is hosted is at the BVI Pilots Wiki, so bvipilots.net. So you go to bvipilots.net, click on Talking Flight Monitor, which is one of the main links right at the top of the page, and then that'll take you to a page where you can download it. And there's also a link on that page to take you to the documentation. The documentation is included in the download, but if you want to, read it beforehand, you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that just about does it, unless there's any other thoughts from you, Jason, or anything else you want to let people know.
No, so I don't know if we actually mentioned that TFM is free. Did we mention that?
I don't think we did in the introduction.
I don't
no,
think we
didn't
did.
mention it's paid, but it is free. I have written here to tell people to make donations. Yes, make donations. Jason is a great guy. His software's great. But if you want to tell me a bit about that.
Sure. So TFM is free. I maybe should have said this initially. Maybe it's obvious, but I'm totally blind myself. TFM is kind of a labor of love. I like I like simming again, but I think I'm doing more coding. Well, I'm definitely doing more coding than simming. But I think it's been a really fun project to learn. I did make it available for free, and it's going to continue to be that way. I don't have any interest in charging for it. I think it's all open source, and again will continue to be. So people can contribute, people can send in ideas, and I'm going to continue working on it for as long as I can. So if people do want to make a donation, I'm certainly not going to say no. I've spent multiple hours on it. It's certainly not mandatory. I'm not going to start popping up, dialogues in the middle of your flight saying, "Please pay me."
It's like, hey, hold on, you're not flying further until you donate.
Actually, what I'll do is at 500 feet above the ground when you're landing, I'll turn TFM off and ask for donations. No, I'm not going to do that.
Oh God.
So if people do want to donate, you can it's PayPal.me. So PayPal.me/jfayre will get you there. And again, not required, but certainly appreciated.
Guys, yeah, to be clear, we are joking about that. He's not really going to do that to your airplanes.
Yeah,
no, I'm really not.
They get that, but there's always the one person who's going to start.
There's always that one person.
This guy's not letting us use the software without donating.
Did you hear that? He's going to start charging us.
No, I'm absolutely not.
No,
absolutely.
But I can understand the time that you put into it, and it's. I used to do a lot of programming. It's been a long time since I've done anything, but it was more, on the mudding type of gaming, coding and stuff. And I did a lot of that, and so I get how long and the time consuming that it is. So, I respect that. So I would tell people, if you can donate, do it. If not, it's not a big deal. But if you can, I'm sure Jason would really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Same
buys me a coffee or dinner or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Got to have coffee, man. Them late hours, right?
Exactly.
coffee.
Exactly.
Yeah, they can virtually buy you a drink for all the work. You know,
Yep.
they can't give it to you themselves, but they can give you the cash to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
I always thought from the beginning, you know, I couldn't fault you if you made it payware, but you never did, and it's been really great for the community that anyone can access this.
Well,
Bringing it all into one
yeah.
place.
It opens doors for newbies.
What's that?
It opens up doors for newbies to be able to learn it.
It does. It does. And I mean, you know, I have a full-time job that's not coding for this.
Yeah.
So I'm not, you know.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, I am sure about that. Most days. Most days. But you know, early on I sort of decided, you know, I don't necessarily need the cash from this, and so I decided that I would, you know, do it and make it available for free, because why not? Then other people can, you know, if people want to download the code and like look at it and modify it and, you know, do, you know, whatever they want to do. That's how I've been learning, right? Like that's how I've been learning a lot of the coding stuff is looking at other open source projects or looking at things like Stack Overflow, which is a site for programmers. So, you know, if I can write this and somewhere down the line somebody else wants to look at it and see how I did it, that more power to them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been great seeing a few people in the community, you know, just getting to know coding or helping out, even if it's just small, jumping on there. And obviously the more people who take a look at it, the better, especially if they got experience or they want to learn. Yeah, I think that about does it. Anything from you, Johnny, to ask? I think that's me done.
No, other than just to say that, you know, for all those of you that just test it, you know, that helps out tremendously. And, you know, Jason don't know to fix something unless it's mentioned, unless it's brought up. So just remember that if there is a problem, just because there might be 10 other ones that don't have that problem, it don't hurt to still bring it up and say, hey, is this doable? Can we, you know, so other than that, but not really, man. I mean,
yeah, because I know on the wiki at the moment you've got the stable version and the beta version, and every so often
I do have one question. So this is nothing major. I got to ask, because I'm the only one that seemed to get this lucky when I'm flying. I run out of gas and you get this beeping noise. Beep, 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 beep. You know, like, it's always beeping. I'm like, there's no way to turn that damn beeper off. What?
It's probably an aircraft.
That's not TFM doing that.
No, it's not. It's not. But I didn't know if there's at some point. But I thought, well, maybe it won't work because it's not on every plane. Every plane don't have that same beeper.
I don't. Which plane is that? Which one is that?
That was on the 7. No, the A319.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's probably no way I can kill that alarm. I don't know if in real life you can kill it. You know, I don't know if there's a button on the panel.
Yeah.
That you can hit to kill it.
But initially, you know, it's not a big deal. Not a big deal. But I didn't know if, you know, if anybody was going to ask, well, how do I turn that off? Well, some stuff.
No, and actually, in fact, I was thinking about adding a low fuel alarm to TFM, and that would be something you could toggle. But I was thinking about doing that because there's a lot of planes that don't have it.
That don't have it, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and it'll
just shut off.
Yeah, and because I am reading fuel tank data, so I certainly could give you that. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up, not necessarily for the problem I was having, but for like other planes that might not have anything.
Okay,
you know.
So actually, if we're talking about suggesting issues, I should mention this. What I'd really like people to do, rather than email me with issues, and you can email me, but what I'm also going to tell you to do if you email me is put an issue on GitHub. So the project is hosted on GitHub. github.com. And so if you, in TFM, if you go to the help menu, there is actually a report an issue item in the help menu. And if you go there, it will take you to the GitHub issues page, and you can put an issue in there. If you do that, I can actually look at them and I can comment on them and I can track, what issues I've fixed, and I can close it if I've fixed it. So it just makes it much easier than if you send me an email and say, "Can you fix this?" It makes it much easier.
Yeah.
It makes it much easier for me to track things. So just under the help menu, it's got a series of pull down menus, so Alt H, and then report an issue will take you right to the GitHub page.
Yeah, just
That's
easier
good.
to catalog them there.
A good point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect.
Awesome.
But yeah, great. I think we're all done here. So yeah, great interview to kick us off. I hope you all enjoyed that. Any questions, of course, you know where to go now. You can always drop them on the podcast, and I can send them along to Jason. But you can contact him on the GitHub as well if it's an actual TFM issue or suggestion. So we will see you in the next segment of the podcast momentarily, where we're going to talk about a few more things that have happened over the past few weeks. But from me and Johnny in this segment, and Jason, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. We appreciate it,
All right.
man.
Thanks, guys.
We appreciate you taking your time to come on and do this for us. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, guys, hello, and welcome back to the second part of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed the interview as much as we did. It was really great to have Jason on and do our first interview. And now we're going to move on to discussing a few things here that have happened over the past few weeks in the community that have been discovered or that we've come across that we think might be of interest to you. So the first one that me and Johnny are going to talk about is, of course, as I'm sure many of you will know, FS 2020. It came out last week, actually, and I don't know about you, but I was really surprised that it was going to be released on August the 18th to the world publicly.
Yeah, when I got up and saw that email, I was like, am I reading this right? Like, what is going on? But
yeah,
I guess, man. I mean,
because of course it was in open, well, not open, sorry, it was in closed alpha, and then it's going to go into a beta at the end of this month. So we all thought that was going to sort of signal that we were going to wait a few more months, probably till the end of the year kind of time. But no, they're bringing it out already. And in terms of accessibility, we don't have any updates from Microsoft, unfortunately. They have said several times they want to make it an accessible simulator. Now, there's been no talk of screen readers or videos that we've had. Several people have reached out to Microsoft. There was a post made on the forums. And there have been, as Jason said in the previous segment, he reached out to someone he knows in the team, Microsoft, to see if they could give any info, and there was no info given. They didn't really have any positive info to give, because all they could say is, well, you're just gonna have to wait and see. We're not sure either. And I mean, we've been saying this from the beginning, haven't we? About we're not too sure of setting expectations too high.
Yeah, my thing is it'd be nice if 2020 is accessible in the way that a lot of people want it to be. That'd be nice. But as I've told people, I don't expect something until you've seen it. Like, at least I don't. I don't make expectations until I see something. So, we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we're surprised, because we all know that FS 2020 is going to be an improvement to the general simulation world. It's going to have a great sound engine. It's going to give you real-world weather for free. It's going to give you live real-world traffic for free. So these things are good, and we're excited. But of course, to use them, we need the interface to actually load up the plane and at your airport to be accessible. And then we were hoping that the plane would be accessible. Some of the systems, maybe even the FMC, would be accessible. but we've heard nothing of this. So people who are assuming it's going to be, I hope they're not going to be disappointed. But I think there's a very good chance on release day we're not going to be able to do any meaningful flying with it at all.
Yeah, because I think that when we talk about accessibility, I believe they very well might have done some accessibility stuff, but not for what we need the accessibility for. For those that might have other, motor skill disabilities and
Absolutely, because accessibility is quite a wide term, and if you look at some of the change logs, it may well say, as we said earlier in the interview, may well say accessibility, but it doesn't mean it's for us. It can mean visual impairments other than totally VI with screen reader usage. Now, what I can confirm for those interested in FS 2020 is that Tramp is going to be supported. He told me this via email, and there's also a note on the website if you would like to go and read it. It's not in the best English, but it is understandable, which basically says that he's hoping within 2 to 8 weeks, I think he said, to have a version out for FS 2020. Now, there are going to be several limitations. It's going to have to be it's currently a DLL. That's how Tramp is formatted. It's going to have to be changed to an EXE, so that's why it's going to take a little while. And also that because the simulator is being released so early, and again, this goes back to the question of, well, are Microsoft rushing this a bit? He's not fully ready with the connections to the sim, so some of the autopilot functions of FS Tramp may not work. Of course, it'd be disappointing to still have to use Tramp in the new simulator, because what we really wanted was, something different. But it may be that within a few months we can do that and at least fly the way we do at the moment. But it's kind of the idea that, well, we know the pricing. I think it was $60 for the basic one, wasn't it, Johnny? And then up to $120, depending on how many.
Yeah, 60, 80, and 120. And, it's
and
I would hope that nobody would go with until you know what it does. Surely people's not doing the 120, but I mean, you never know.
I mean, you get the visual airports sceneries for some extras, which we're not particularly interested in. You do get a few more aircraft, but whether they're worth that much, I don't know. Now, of course, the important thing to note is that we will give you an update as soon as possible on this podcast about the accessibility confirmed, and also what can be used and what can't, because there are people in the community who have Game Pass and who will probably be able to try this out for a lesser fee, and anyone who does try it out, we'll get someone on who's tried it, and we will perhaps discuss it with them as to what they've seen if they have Game Pass, so that we can all make a judgment and not have to spend the money on it if we don't think it's worth it in the state when it's released. So it's going to be tough, I think, on day one, because we don't know what to expect. Probably not much accessibility. Tramp is probably going to be coming, but slowly. And for those of you, the ever dwindling number, but there are some people who still use FSX Pilot, which is fair enough if you're flying offline at least. There's no word at all about FSX Pilot, so who knows if that'll even be coming across. So I have to say it was a bit of a shock, and it was, when it came out, everyone was surprised. Wasn't exactly the best news. So
yeah, it was definitely a shocker. Definitely. I would have to agree with you.
And of course, me and you have been saying from the beginning that what we think Microsoft should have done, and a lot of people agree with this, pretty much everyone, I think, in the community, that if they had got together a team of all of us and made a little focus group for accessibility and to work with their accessibility department, because I know, there are people working on it, then it could have come a long way before release. But it's a massive jump from what we have now to get there. So we need a lot of people involved.
Definitely. And I mean, more than just one or two people, and it needs to be, and I'm not talking 30 or 40 people, but at least, I don't know, 7, 8 people, maybe 10, something. So you've got people looking at different things for the accessibility and
Absolutely.
also working together. But it's unfortunate that it didn't happen that way. So we were hoping for the best.
Well, yeah, we're hoping for the best, and we still are, but we're getting more and more skeptical of what's coming. So we just got to wait and see.
Come on, Microsoft, get it together.
Yeah,
will ya?
18th of August. That's the one.
Seriously.
So the next item on the list to discuss is FS Tramp version 8.3.0. Which came out a few weeks ago now, but we're going to discuss it because some people may not know, and there's a few things I can say about it. So the Tramp developer, firstly, I want to give him some thanks, publicly on this podcast, because as a community we've had various things with him in the past, and we all know Tramp has its little quirks with accessibility. However, he worked with me on this particular area, and via emails we were able to converse and get a feature that quite a few people have wanted for a while, and that's the ability to have the waypoints of SIDS and stars show up in the main routing tree view. And so this was a really great thing. I mean, I know you've tried it, Johnny. For me, it really changed the way that we fly, especially on VATSIM.
Oh man, yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, to me, it's there's no comparison to what it was and what it is. No comparison. It's 100% better.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what this allows you to do is go direct to a waypoint on a SID or a star, and also set a new altitude restriction on that waypoint. Of course, previously we had to either associate the procedure or use the SimBrief waypoints. Now we don't have to worry about any of that. We can just associate, leave the SimBrief waypoints out, just use the no procedure version. For those of you who know what that is, just use the no proc version of the plan and associate as normal, and all those waypoints are going to show up for you. So for newbies, I think it's a great thing, because they haven't got to worry about anything. Just get their plan. Once they learn how to associate, they're in the game, really.
Yeah, and all you gotta do is load when they download their flight plan, just download the one that says no proc. It'll say let's say just, I don't know, KMIA to KIND dash and then something dash no proc NOP.
Yeah.
But that's the one you want,
and
then that way the nice thing is if they're telling you to fly direct to whichever waypoint, you can do it so easily now.
Mm-hmm.
Just get on the list, go to it, and do fly from here, and there you go.
Absolutely.
Hit your application, go down to fly from here, and that's where it's going to take you.
So, for those of you who maybe were looking at getting Tramp and you were a bit unsure and thinking, hey, this is complicated, well, it is still, you still got to know how to use a screen review mode in NVDA and get around with Object Nav, and there are a few little skills. However, it's been made a lot easier, so if you like VATSIM and you're well into that, get rid of Pilot, get on Tramp, and you'll enjoy yourself a lot more. I think it's going to be a lot easier.
Yeah, and here's the thing, though. The thing that I think anybody out there needs to realize, that if you're going to fly, there's two things I want to point out. One, don't treat it like a game, because it's not a game. It's definitely not a game. And number two, if you're going to learn to fly, you're going to do your homework. You're going to have to learn what certain things are, because otherwise, you're just not going to have any clue.
Oh yeah, and
something
no doubt
comes up while you're in the air.
Bit of kit.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
if you learn it, if you really want to get to know flying, it's the best thing we have right now.
Yeah, it's like get in the plane and take off, and not know anything about altitudes or anything, and you're flying along and, your altitude's only, I don't know, just to be smart about it, 800 feet, and you're supposed to be up at 10,000, you've got a problem. And you wouldn't know that otherwise unless you did your homework. Like, you can't just jump in it and take off. You got to learn some stuff.
Absolutely. And the whole SIDS and STARS procedures, Tramp can fly them pretty much to the letter. It follows all the procedures. You can choose your approach, an ILS approach, or all these different types of approaches that newbies won't know about, but they're just basically different forms of approach you can fly, different levels of automation, and so Tramp will let you do all that. Now, I should point out for anyone really, people who are currently using Tramp or people who are looking to get into it, there were a few bugs with the FS Tramp 830. Some of them have been around for quite a while, so I worked with the Tramp developer to remove most of these bugs that were an issue for us, and he sent to me 2 DLL files which fix these bugs and go in your main FS Tramp folder, which is usually C program files x86 FS Tramp. Now, he hasn't published these on the site yet, their main FS Tramp site, but they are available. Obviously I'm going to give them to anyone who wants them. So they're going to go on the wiki, the BVI Pilots wiki, the address which Jason gave you in the interview, and they're also going to be in my personal Dropbox. So I will put that Dropbox in the description. If you have any queries, of course, feel free to contact us, and we'll talk a little bit more about how you can contact us right at the end. So just drop those in, hit replace, and you should be good to go. You shouldn't have any issues with the new Tramp. It should be all ready. In a few months, probably, maybe when FS 20 comes out and he releases a new version, I think these fixes will be in the main download on the site, so you'll no longer have to do that. But yeah, again, thanks to the developer. It was a great thing to be able to have all these fixes and changes. And it all happened very quickly, so none of us really expected that, but that's something that was really positive a few weeks ago for us all.
Yeah, it definitely, we was all surprised. Like,
yeah,
when you told me that, hey, FS Tramp is fixed, I'm like, I gotta have that. Like, man, it was, I mean, a big difference, from cloudy to sunshine difference, So.
Yeah, absolutely. So the third item we have on the list is something that a lot of you probably don't know about, actually. It's an add-on that I found a month or so ago, and as is the way on this podcast, we're not just going to tell you about something before we've tested it. So I've tested it out substantially. I've done VATSIM flights with it. I've tested it out at different airports, but it's called Runway Awareness System, or otherwise abbreviated as RAS, R-A-S. And it's by FS2 Crew, who also make lots of other add-ons, but they make this one, and it's basically an audio text-to-speech in a way add-on, which will give you indications of various things around the airports. So it'll tell you runway lengths. If you're approaching the end of a runway, it's going to give you call out. So how many feet, 4,000, 3,000, whatever it is, feet remaining, it'll tell you, so you know that you're approaching the end of a runway on takeoff or landing. It's going to tell you when you're sat on a runway and whether your flaps are set correctly. It's going to tell you when you're approaching a runway from the air. It's got various advisories to tell you if it thinks you are too fast on approach or too high. And so it's a very useful little add-on that has saved me quite a few times on VATSIM going into short airports where otherwise we might have overrun the runway, because I was thinking it's a nice long runway. We've probably touched down fine. We can just brake and not worry about it. But actually, what we needed to do, RAS showed me, was maybe do more braking and more reverse thrust, because it's telling me how much of the runway is left. So
because before having that, like me example, the only way I'm going to know how long that runway is, and hopefully it's the runway that it actually puts me on, which it usually does, but you got to look at, you got to look at the numbers on where it says how long it is just in text, but it's nice to know that as you're coming in, you've got something telling you what's going on.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
You touch down and you might be on a short runway thinking, oh, I've got plenty of room, and then you're sitting in the ocean like, what happened?
Yeah, and because it's got these
I know
advisories,
a few people has done that.
it's really cool with tramp, because we all know that tramp can be a little bit dodgy as to how it touches down. So sometimes you'll hear it say things like, oh, long landing, which means basically you're floating down the runway, you need a touchdown. And sometimes it might say, oh, caution, taxiway, and that means, well, tramp's not approaching on a runway, it's taking you the wrong way, and you're going to land on a taxiway because you're, for whatever reason. And it's good to know, because then if you are having these warnings going off, you can disconnect from VATSIM and say, oh hey, yeah, something screwed up here. Tramp's autopilot cut out too early, and we were going to land on a taxiway, so we don't want that. Whatever it may be.
Well, and you could even, I don't know, how easy it would be to do, but if you're coming down and if you're at, say, 1,500 feet, you might even have time to do a go around or something,
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, you could, usually if you switch tramp back into the correct mode, and then just set an altitude and climb, you could do a go around, and as long as and I've heard this happen before, where controllers will be happy to vector you if you ask for headings, and they can probably bring you back around and try again. Provided that tramp plays ball. But yeah, it should work, and you can come for another try, and so it can save you that way as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've had a controller actually bring me all the way in. So he did a go around with me. That didn't work for some reason. The iOS still wasn't, I just wasn't connecting. And he's like, okay, I'm just going to bring you in by heading all the way. And so he literally brought me in by headings, and that was it. And just, I kept changing my altitude until I was pretty much on the ground.
Yeah.
And it's amazing when they do that, because they don't have to do that, but they do. They will usually.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, so that's the main three things discussed. And the last thing on the list is something I'm going to let Johnny talk about, since it's his little project, which is an event that he's going to be running. So I'll hand it over to you for that.
Yeah. So what we've got going on, I've got another partner that's decided to do this because, obviously the honeycomb yoke is, it's not a cheap project, or product rather. Sorry. And so we've decided he's going to get the honeycomb, along with a flight stick, and then maybe like a third place, you'll get maybe a $25 gift card, something like that. It's going to happen on the 22nd of next month. And the more people, the better, because, if we only got 3 people, getting involved in it, it's going to be hard to continue that, whole event, because of the amount of money that's being invested to make this happen. We want it to be where there's, at least a decent amount of people, not like everybody, but enough people to where it's worth doing it. First place, you're going to get the honeycomb. Second place, you'll get a flight stick. Third place, a gift card, and you're going to do a 3-legger. I believe they call it a 3-legger. So you're going to basically fly to, 3 different places, I think, from LAX to Calgary. I forget the airport code. And then Calgary to...
Is it Detroit, I think?
Detroit, yep, Detroit. And then Detroit to Boston, and your final is going to be Boston to, Dallas, I believe.
Yeah, Dallas, yeah.
So it's, it's going to be one of them events that's going to take, it's going to take you a little bit to finish it, but it'll be fun. And if you're not on the same time with us, and, if you're on the same time zone and say like Declan, it's nighttime where he's at. Like right now it's well, it's going on nighttime, I think. But we're going to work with those of you that are on the different time, time frame like that. We're going to let you go ahead and just get up, do yours, and then by the time you get done, we'll still be. You'll have yours done, and we'll still be doing ours. But we're going to make it work. So if you want to be a part of that, I'm actually going to be getting that form done today. We had one form, but it didn't have no. My friend forgot to put the name on it. We just had an email, and we're like, well, we need a name too. We need to know who is actually joining, not just their email. So I don't know what could we do to get that out to people? I guess they could contact us, and we could send them the link to register, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we can put the form link in the description if we get time. If you have a look and it isn't there, feel free, again, bvipilotspodcast at gmail.com. If you want anything, we'll get back to you and with that link. If you're in the WhatsApp email group, you'll know about it already.
Yeah, and we'll put it back in the description when we're done. When it's been created, we'll put it in the description. So just come back and check, and that link might be there, because we can come back and add it in.
Yeah.
So, but we definitely want to see as many of you that that we can to get involved in it. It's a lot of fun, and I think it's it says a lot about the other person that's doing it. He's an actual real pilot, and he's just doing it just to be kind-hearted and to have fun,
Oh, it's really great of him to do it, yeah. And of course, because he's a real-world pilot, people are going to have to use either Project Fly or Sim Toolkit Pro, either of which is a flight tracker, and then he's going to be able to see your landing rate and probably a visual graph of your flight to judge, which person flew the best on each flight.
Yeah, because he's gonna be looking at how you took off and how you landed, and like you said, all in general how good you did. And I mean, coming from a real pilot, he's gonna be the best judge. I could judge it, but he's gonna be able to judge it a lot better, a lot more accurate. I guess is really the best way to put it.
Yeah, it's just a bit of fun, but a bit of competition in there too. So make sure you practice and you know how to land your aircraft. And that's what this stick and honeycomb's going to help with when people get them, landing and taking off. The rudder input,
and the thing is you can download the flight plans. You can download them and practice, and then the day of, you're going to need to download a fresh flight plan. That way the date matches, and he knows that, okay, they did it this day. So, but yeah, it's going to be great.
Absolutely. And again, people can use these for the manual part of flying. As Jason was saying with TFM, the sonification audio over your flight controls. You've got it on landing, on takeoff. You can use it for your flare. You can use it for your rudder input. So all of that, just because we're VI, we absolutely need a joystick. And if you win something like the Honeycomb, it's a great piece of kit, really good quality. Same with the flight stick. Thrustmaster do some great flight sticks with throttles and all that. So it's really good that this event's happening and as many people as possible can get involved. Of course, it is on VATSIM, so you'll need to be aware of how to fly. You've got a bit of time if you want to learn. There's good stuff on the VATSIM website for your phraseology, and of course, just make sure you're familiar with TRAMP. We don't want you obviously to get really frustrated if you're a newbie and trying to do this on VATSIM on the day. That could be a real problem. So,
and guys, here's the thing with VATSIM. Here's the thing, and like the airline that I just joined. What is the name of them?
Allegiant Virtual.
Do you remember? Yeah. I just joined them, and I mean they got bukus of helpful stuff, video after video after video of showing how to do stuff. But not just that, but VATSIM, they've got all kinds of training materials.
Yeah.
If you're not sure how to do an IFR, go read it. Like, read up on some stuff and practice. The controller's not going to yell at you because you're on there trying to do better. Don't go in there like making a mockery out of yourself, but practice.
Oh,
That's
absolutely. Everyone makes a mistake on their first few flights, and there's the materials out there. Feel free to contact us. Feel free to jump on the WhatsApp or the mailing list as well. If you're unsure of how to use Tramp on VATSIM, I'm sure people will help you out to the best of their ability. So that's going to be a really cool event, and that just takes me on to wrapping it up really. So, of course, you've got the usual places you can contact us at the email that I've said previously, which is in the podcast description. This is the main Spreaker page that the podcast is going to go on. So if you use Spreaker and you want to follow us, feel free. But it is also going to go on other areas. It's going on my YouTube channel. It's also going to be on Spotify and very soon iTunes. It's going to be on Google Podcasts, Podcatcher, a whole bunch of players, Google Podcasts, I believe, as well. So, yeah, we should be on your favorite podcast player very, very soon if we're not already. We're trying to spread this as much as possible. Feel free to, share this with anyone, even if they're brand new.
Yep.
Just let them see what they think of it all. And yeah, unless there's anything else from you, Johnny, I think that's it. A nice long edition this week.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's
episode.
And here's the thing too. Just in case you guys might want to do it, you can actually download a Spreaker app, and if you're following us, you'll get notified right there, and you can listen to the podcast right through the app. So
yeah,
that's another option as well. You don't got to be a Spreaker podcaster to download the app. A lot of people download it just to listen to a podcast. So you've got options, several different options for listening. So it's exciting, but yeah, a longer podcast, but well worth it.
Absolutely. And as a side note, I believe we also have a Twitter now, don't we, Johnny? So that it'll be posted on there when we do a new episode.
Yep, we do. It's going to be at BVI Pilots. That's the Twitter, and what we'll do is I'll verify that, and we'll put it in the description or something like that. So the link's there. That way, you guys are definitely getting to the Twitter page.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I hope you've all enjoyed this episode. It's been great. And we will see you, the plan is, in 2 weeks' time today, or at least there'll be one published. I'm going to be on a vacation in 2 weeks' time, but maybe we'll pre-record something or something like that, just a little episode to go out. And then, of course, after that, it's on to FS 2020, which will be on very soon after that, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But this is a nice long one. It's enough to keep everyone going, I think, for the next few weeks. Get the teeth into. All right, then. We will see you next time. It's been a pleasure. Share this and get in contact with us if you feel you need to. Thank you all.